What he whispered. The morning ritual. The morning mist clung to the forest floor as Maria Rodriguez made her way along the familiar dirt path, her worn hiking boots crunching softly on fallen leaves. At 32, she had developed this routine over the past year, rising before dawn, dropping Emma off at her grandmother's house, and spending an hour walking through the woods behind their small town before heading to her job as building services supervisor at Mitchell Industries. These quiet moments in nature had become her sanctuary. As a single mother, Maria rarely had time to herself. Between working full-time, helping Emma with homework, and managing their modest household, peaceful solitude was a luxury she could barely afford. But something about the ancient oak trees and the gentle sound of the nearby creek helped center her thoughts and prepare her for whatever challenges the day might bring. The forest was particularly beautiful. This October morning, golden sunlight filtered through the canopy, creating dancing patterns of light and shadow on the forest floor. Maria paused to breathe in the crisp autumn air, feeling grateful for this small pocket of tranquility in her otherwise hectic life. She had discovered this trail by accident 6 months ago, when Emma had begged to go exploring during a rare weekend off. What started as a mother-daughter adventure had become Maria's daily meditation, a place where she could think clearly about her hopes and dreams for their future. The desperate discovery as Maria rounded a bend near the old creek bed. She heard something that made her blood run cold, a faint tapping sound, rhythmic and deliberate, coming from somewhere beneath the ground. She stopped walking and listened carefully, wondering if her imagination was playing tricks on her. Tap, tap, tap. There it was again, definitely coming from below her feet. Maria knelt down and pressed her ear to the earth. The tapping became more frantic, accompanied by what sounded like muffled shouting. Her heart began racing as she realized what she was hearing. Someone was buried alive beneath the forest floor. "Hello?" she called out, her voice echoing through the quiet woods. "Can you hear me?" The response was immediate, desperate pounding, and a voice so muffled she could barely make out the words, but the terror in it was unmistakable. Someone was trapped underground, and from the weakness in their voice, they had been there for some time. Maria looked around frantically. She was alone, with no cell phone service this deep in the woods and no tools except her small backpack containing a water bottle and energy bar. But she couldn't leave whoever was down there to die while she went for help. They might not have that much time left. She began clawing at the earth with her bare hands, following the sound of the voice. The dirt was loose, as if it had been recently disturbed, and after several minutes of desperate digging, her fingers hit something hard, wood. It was a makeshift coffin or box buried just a few feet beneath the surface. "Hold on," she shouted. "I'm going to get you out." The rescue Maria's hands were raw and bleeding, but she continued digging with determination that surprised even herself. She thought of Emma, of how she would feel if someone she loved was trapped and helpless. That thought gave her strength she didn't know she possessed. After 20 minutes of frantic excavation, she had cleared enough dirt to reveal a crude wooden box with a small air hole drilled in the top. The tapping was coming from directly below, weak but persistent. "I'm here," she called down through the air hole. "What's your name?" "Robert," came the barely audible reply. "Robert Mitchell, please." Running out of air. Maria's eyes widened in shock. Robert Mitchell, her boss, the CEO of the company where she worked. But there was no time to process the coincidence. She needed to get him out immediately. She found a fallen branch and used it as a lever, prying at the wooden lid. The makeshift coffin had been hastily constructed, held together more by desperation than craftsmanship. With a final, determined effort, she managed to break one corner of the lid and pull it away. Robert Mitchell's face appeared in the opening, pale and dirt-streaked, gasping for fresh air. His expensive suit was torn and filthy, his usually perfect hair matted with sweat and grime. But his eyes were alert and filled with gratitude as he looked up at his rescuer. "Maria?" he whispered in disbelief. "Maria Rodriguez?" She reached down and helped pull him from the shallow grave, both of them collapsing onto the forest floor, breathing heavily. Robert was weak but alive, and as color slowly returned to his face, Maria could see that he was relatively unharmed. The whispered secret A's. Robert sat up slowly, leaning against a nearby tree trunk. Maria offered him her water bottle. He drank gratefully, his hands shaking from exhaustion and shock. "How did you find me?" he asked, his voice still hoarse. "I walk this trail every morning," Maria explained. "I heard you tapping. Mr. Mitchell, what happened?" "Who did this to you?" Robert closed his eyes for a moment as if gathering courage for what he was about to say. When he opened them again, they were filled with a mixture of shame and relief. "It was my business partner, Harrison Webb," he said quietly. "We had a disagreement about some questionable financial practices he wanted to implement. When I threatened to expose him, he had me kidnapped and buried alive. He told everyone I was on a business trip to Europe." Maria listened in stunned silence as Robert continued, his voice growing stronger with each word. "But that's not the worst part," he said, leaning closer to her. "Maria, there's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you a long time ago." He paused, looking directly into her eyes with an expression she had never seen before. Vulnerability mixed with something that looked almost like love. "When Emma came to my office that day last year, when you were sick," he whispered, "she didn't just change my perspective on business. She changed everything. You changed everything. The way you raised her, the dignity with which you handle every challenge, the strength you show every single day. Maria, I've been in love with you for months." Maria felt her heart stop. Of all the things she had expected to hear after rescuing her boss from a shallow grave, a declaration of love was not one of them. Section 5. The Truth Revealed. "I know this sounds crazy," Robert continued, his voice urgent but gentle. "And I know the timing is terrible. But lying in that box, thinking I might die, all I could think about was how I'd wasted so much time being afraid to tell you how I feel. How I've watched you from afar, admiring your strength, your kindness, the way you light up every room you enter." Maria stared at him, processing his words. She thought about all their interactions over the past year, the way he had promoted her so quickly, the genuine interest he had shown in Emma's well-being, the occasional lingering glances she had caught but dismissed as her imagination. "Mr. Mitchell?" "Robert, I don't know what to say," she began. "Don't say anything yet," he interrupted gently. "I know this is overwhelming. I know I'm your boss, and this complicates everything. But Maria, you literally saved my life today. And I realize that life isn't worth living if I'm not brave enough to be honest about what matters most." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small, muddy business card. "Harrison doesn't know I escaped. He thinks I'm dead. We need to call the police, and I need to expose what he's been doing to the company." He paused, looking at her with hope and uncertainty. "But first, I need to know, is there any chance, any possibility that you might feel something for me, too?" A new beginning. Maria looked at this powerful man sitting on the forest floor, covered in dirt, completely vulnerable and honest in a way she had never seen before. She thought about the past year, about the small kindnesses he had shown her family, about the way Emma always lit up when she talked about the nice boss man. She thought about her lonely evenings after Emma went to bed, and the dreams she had pushed aside because they seemed too impossible for a single mother from their small town. "Robert," she said softly, "I'd be lying if I said I hadn't noticed you, too. The way you really listen when people talk, how you remember small details about your employees' lives. When you promoted me, you changed everything for my family. But I never imagined that someone like me could care about someone like you," Robert asked. "No," Maria said, surprising him with her directness. "That someone as wonderful as you could be interested in someone like me." Robert reached over and gently took her dirt-stained hand in his. "Maria Rodriguez, you are the strongest, most amazing woman I have ever met. You saved my life today, but the truth is, you and Emma have been saving my life every day for months just by existing, just by reminding me what really matters." As they sat together in the quiet forest, with sunshine filtering through the trees and the sound of the creek babbling nearby, Maria felt something she hadn't experienced in years, hope for a future she had never dared to imagine. "We should call the police," she said practically, but she didn't let go of his hand. "Yes, we should," Robert agreed. "But first, Maria, would you consider having dinner with me sometime? Somewhere nice where we can talk about this properly, away from buried coffins and corporate intrigue?" Maria smiled, the first real smile she had felt in months. "I'd like that very much," she said. "But Emma comes too for the first few dates. I want her to get used to the idea gradually." Robert's face lit up with joy. "I wouldn't have it any other way.